All right, so let's jump into cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It feels like it's always changing.
And constantly evolving.
Every time you think you've got a handle on things,
Right.
something new pops up.
It really is.
This whole idea of a gap analysis, though,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we are diving into.
Okay.
Figuring out where you are now versus where you want to be.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like plotting a course on a map
I like that.
instead of physical locations.
Yeah.
We're talking about vulnerabilities.
You got it.
So how do we even begin with this analysis?
Well, I think the first step
Yeah.
is establishing a baseline.
The baseline. Okay.
Think of it as your cybersecurity North Star.
Right.
A set of target security standards you're aiming for.
So that's like our cybersecurity wish list.
You could say that.
Even if we're not there yet.
Right.
But how do we create this wish list?
You could certainly create your own baselines,
Okay.
especially if you have specific needs. But there are some really valuable resources out there, like the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or
Right.
NIST for short.
All right, NIST.
They have something called Special Publication 800-171 Revision 2.
What is that?
It's become a bit of a gold standard,
Okay.
particularly for organizations that handle sensitive information.
Oh, I see.
I even remember a case
Oh, yeah.
where a company was about to lose a major government contract
Oh, wow.
because their security practices didn't meet NIST standards. They ended up using this publication as a roadmap to revamp their whole system,
Okay.
and it saved the deal.
Wow. So it sounds like NIST publications are pretty important.
They're definitely more than just cheat sheets.
Okay.
They're comprehensive frameworks
Yeah.
built on years of research and experience.
Makes sense.
Another great resource is the International Organization for Standardization.
Oh.
You might know them as ISO,
ISO, right?
with their standard ISO-IS 27001.
Okay, so similar to NIST,
Yeah, kind of like NIST.
but with more of a global perspective.
Exactly.
So we've got these baselines, our cybersecurity North Stars.
Right.
But how do we figure out where we stand in relation to them?
Well, that's where the gap part comes in.
The gap.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's not just about your technology.
Uh-huh.
It's about examining the human element of cybersecurity.
The human element. We're not just talking about firewalls and passwords then,
Not just those, no.
but also the people who use them.
That's a big part of it, yeah. Even the most sophisticated security system can be rendered useless
Oh, I see.
if someone clicks on a phishing link
Oh, right.
or falls for a social engineering scam.
So how do we analyze this human element?
Well, it's more nuanced than just a pop quiz.
A figure.
A gap analysis looks at things like
Okay.
employee training,
Right.
awareness of security policies,
Hmm.
even company culture.
Okay.
For example, is there a clear process for reporting security incidents?
Oh, right.
Do employees feel comfortable speaking up if they notice something suspicious?
So it's about creating a culture of security.
Exactly,
Right.
where everyone feels responsible,
Got it.
not just the IT department.
Right.
And that's where things can get tricky.
How so?
You can have the best intentions,
Okay.
but if your processes and systems don't align with your policies, you're still vulnerable.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like having a state-of-the-art security system at home, but leaving your back door wide open.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to see how this all works.
Good.
Honestly, though,
Yeah.
the thought of analyzing all these gaps, it feels kind of overwhelming.
I can understand that.
What's a practical way to approach it?
Well, one way is to break down those broad security goals
Okay.
into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Okay.
For example, let's take the goal of limiting system access to unauthorized users.
Okay, limiting system access.
Right.
That sounds pretty straightforward at first.
Maybe.
I'm guessing it's more complicated than that.
It definitely.
So how do we break it down?
Well, that one goal
Mhm.
can be broken down into several smaller steps,
Okay.
each with its own potential gaps.
Like what?
Think about user registration and deregistration,
Okay, yeah.
how you grant access,
Right.
how you manage privileged access rights.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Privileged access rights.
Right?
What are those?
Think of those accounts as having the master keys to your entire system.
Oh, wow.
They can do pretty much anything.
Okay.
So if they're compromised,
Yeah.
the attacker has almost unlimited control.
Yikes. Okay, so those are pretty important to manage.
Extremely important.
So a gap analysis would look at how these privileged accounts are managed
Exactly.
and who has access to them and how that access is monitored.
All of that. Yes.
And how often do you review who has access to what?
Regularly.
Because people change roles,
Right.
leave the company, all that.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so it's really about being meticulous
Mm-hmm.
and leaving no stone unturned.
You got it.
This is making me realize just how granular this whole process can get.
It can be, yeah.
It's not just about the big picture.
No.
It's about examining every single step
It is.
in your security procedures.
You got it.
And that's what makes it so powerful, right?
Exactly.
Because you're not just addressing symptoms.
You're identifying the root causes.
Of potential vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
Okay, we've gathered all this data about our security gaps.
Okay.
What's next?
Now comes the exciting part.
Yeah.
Turning that data into action.
Turning data into action. Okay.
And that's where the gap analysis report shines.
Oh, the report, right?
The report is like a personalized roadmap for improving your security.
I like that.
It tells you where you stand
Okay.
for each security goal
Right.
compared to your desired baseline.
So not just pointing out problems,
Yeah.
but actually offering solutions,
Exactly.
giving you a plan of attack.
Think of it as your personalized security improvement guide. And there are some clever ways to visualize all this information.
Right.
Like, imagine a table
All right, I'm picturing a table.
where each row
Uh-huh.
represents a key security requirement,
Okay.
and each column is a different location or department within your organization.
All right.
Now, each cell in that table
Okay.
can be color-coded.
Color-coded, I like that.
Green means you're good.
Okay.
Yellow means there's room for improvement. And red means danger zone.
Red for danger zone. Okay.
Exactly.
So that way you can easily prioritize fixes.
You got it.
Okay, that color coding system sounds super helpful.
It is.
What happens if a company has dozens of security requirements
Yeah.
and multiple locations?
That's a great point.
Would that table become too complex?
That brings up the concept of scalability,
Scalability.
which we'll delve into in part 2 of this deep dive.
Oh, okay, cliffhanger.
You'll have to stay tuned.
So we've covered the basics of what a gap analysis is
Yeah.
and why it's so important. It is very important.
But before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to make sure our listeners understand this
Yeah.
isn't just for giant corporations
Absolutely not.
with dedicated security teams.
Anyone can benefit,
Really?
even if you're just trying to improve the security of your personal devices and online accounts.
So like what?
Think about your passwords,
Okay.
your home Wi-Fi network, your social media privacy settings.
Right.
There are gaps everywhere.
So it's like taking a step back
Yeah.
and looking at our digital lives with a fresh, more critical eye.
I like that.
And that's what we're going to help our listeners do.
Okay.
In the next part of this deep dive,
Sounds good.
we'll show them how to apply these principles to their
Nice.
own lives
Great.
and start taking control of their cybersecurity.
I like it. You know, one of the biggest challenges in cybersecurity isn't the technology itself.
Really?
It's the human factor.
Right. We were just talking about that.
Yeah. How even the best security systems can be undermined by human error.
Exactly.
Complacency.
One of the most common mistakes
Okay.
is thinking, oh, I'm just a regular person.
Right.
Hackers wouldn't be interested in me.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But the truth is,
Yeah.
cyber criminals often target the easiest points of entry. And that could be anyone.
It's like leaving your front door unlocked
Right.
because you think your house isn't fancy enough to be burglarized.
Exactly.
But a burglar isn't looking for the fanciest house.
Right.
They're looking for the easiest target.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy.
So that's why this idea of scalability in a gap analysis is so important. You can tailor it
Right.
to fit your specific needs and resources,
Yes.
whether you're a multinational corporation or someone just trying to protect their personal data.
Exactly.
So how do we scale down a gap analysis?
Okay.
For someone who's not dealing with enterprise-level security.
It's about starting with the most critical areas.
Oh.
Let's say you're concerned about your online banking security.
All right, online banking.
A scaled-down gap analysis
Yeah.
might focus on things like,
Okay.
do you use strong, unique passwords for your financial accounts?
Okay. Good.
Is your home Wi-Fi network secure? Have you enabled multi-factor authentication where available?
So instead of trying to analyze every single aspect of our digital lives, we can choose a specific area
You got it.
and do a deep dive on that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And you can gradually expand your analysis over time as you become more comfortable with the process.
That makes sense.
The key is to be thorough
Right.
and honest with yourself about your vulnerabilities.
It's kind of like a health checkup, right?
Yes.
You might start with a basic physical,
Uh-huh.
and then if needed,
Yeah.
you can do more specialized tests or screenings.
I like that comparison.
And just like with your physical health,
Right.
early detection is key in cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
The sooner you identify those vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
the better chance you have of mitigating them.
Right.
Before they become major problems.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so let's say I've done my gap analysis.
All right.
I've identified the areas where I need to improve. What happens next?
Well, that's where the gap analysis report comes in.
Okay, the report.
It outlines specific steps you can take based on your unique situation.
All right, so what kind of steps are we talking about?
For individuals, common recommendations might include using a password manager to generate and store strong, unique passwords. Enabling multi-factor authentication on all your important accounts.
Gotcha.
Being more vigilant about phishing emails and keeping your software and operating systems up to date.
It's funny how those things always sound so basic.
I know, right?
But they're often the first things we neglect.
It's true.
We tend to overestimate our ability
to
remember complex passwords or spot phishing attempts.
Exactly.
So a gap analysis helps you acknowledge those weaknesses and implement tools and strategies to compensate.
Exactly.
So it's not about becoming a cybersecurity expert overnight.
No.
But about using the right tools and strategies to minimize our risk.
You got it.
For businesses, the recommendations might involve things like updating software, investing in employee training, or strengthening access controls to sensitive data.
Right.
Sometimes it might even involve bringing in outside consultants.
It could.
To help with specific aspects of security, like penetration testing or vulnerability assessments.
Right.
That makes sense.
It does.
Not everyone has the expertise or resources to handle everything in-house.
Exactly.
It's important to remember
that
cybersecurity is not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely not.
What works for one organization or individual
might
not be suitable for another. A gap analysis helps you create a customized plan that addresses your specific needs and vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
This all sounds incredibly valuable.
It is.
But are there any common pitfalls or challenges
Of course.
people might encounter when doing their own gap analyses?
One common mistake is being too narrow in your focus. It's easy to fixate on the technical aspects of security, like firewalls and antivirus software, but neglecting the human element. Remember, people are often the weakest link in the chain.
We can have the most sophisticated security system in the world.
Exactly.
But if someone clicks on a phishing link or falls for a social engineering scam, all that technology is for naught.
Exactly. So make sure your gap analysis includes a thorough assessment of user awareness, training, and adherence to security policies.
So talk to your employees. Get a sense of their cybersecurity habits and comfort levels. Okay, that's a great point to keep in mind.
It is.
Any other potential traps to avoid?
Another challenge is getting bogged down in the details and losing sight of the big picture. It's easy to get lost in spreadsheets and checklists.
I could see that.
But it's crucial to remember that the ultimate goal of a gap analysis is to improve your overall security posture, not just tick boxes.
So it's not about achieving perfect security.
No.
Which is probably impossible anyway.
Pretty much.
But about making informed decisions and prioritizing actions that will have the biggest impact.
Precisely. Don't let the process become an end in itself. Focus on the outcomes you want to achieve and use the gap analysis as a tool to guide your decisions.
This is such valuable advice.
I hope so.
A lot of people, myself included, can get caught up in the minutia.
It happens.
And lose sight of the forest for the trees.
It's a common tendency.
So by keeping the big picture in mind and focusing on actionable steps, you can make significant progress toward improving your security.
You got it.
So before we move on to part 3, where we'll be talking about practical resources and tools for conducting your own gap analysis.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind?
I think the most important thing is to approach cybersecurity with a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation.
Continuous learning.
The threat landscape is constantly evolving. So what works today might not be effective tomorrow. Stay curious, stay informed, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Great advice. Okay, we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
The what, the why, and the how of gap analyses.
Right.
But I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, this all sounds great in theory, but where do I actually start?
Well, the good news is there are some fantastic resources available to help you get started.
Like what? As we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
NIST is a treasure trove of information on cybersecurity best practices and frameworks.
Right.
They even have specific publications dedicated to conducting gap analyses.
What if someone feels a little intimidated by NIST, though?
I understand.
Are there some more user-friendly options out there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tons of websites and organizations that focus on making cybersecurity accessible to everyone,
Okay.
regardless of their technical expertise.
That's good.
You can find checklists,
Right.
step-by-step guides, even online tools that help you assess your current security posture.
Okay, that sounds much less daunting.
It is.
But even with all these resources, I
Yeah.
think some people might still feel a bit overwhelmed.
Sure.
Where do you suggest they focus their initial efforts?
A great place to start is with your passwords.
Passwords, okay.
Think about how many online accounts you have,
Oh, wow, so many.
from social media to banking to shopping.
Right. Yeah. Are you using the same password for multiple sites?
Ugh, probably.
Are your passwords strong and unique?
I know I'm guilty of reusing passwords.
I hear you.
It's just so hard to remember a different one for every single account.
I know. That's why using a password manager is one of the most impactful things you can do
Really?
for your security.
Okay.
It takes the burden of remembering complex passwords off your shoulders.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And it helps you create unique, strong passwords
Okay.
for each of your accounts.
So password manager is like having a digital vault
Exactly.
for all my passwords.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And most of them have other handy features too,
Like what?
like secure note-taking and even the ability to generate those random complex passwords
Okay.
that make hackers sweat.
Speaking of things that make hackers sweat,
Yeah.
let's talk about multi-factor authentication.
Ah, yes, the infamous MFA.
I know it's supposed to be super important,
It is.
but I have to admit,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like a bit of a hassle.
I get it.
All those extra steps.
It can be an extra step,
Yeah.
but it's a step worth taking,
Okay.
especially for your most sensitive accounts,
Like what?
like banking, email, and social media. Imagine someone trying to break into your account.
Okay.
They might manage to guess your password,
Okay.
but with MFA enabled,
Yeah.
they also need access to your phone
Right.
or another trusted device
All right.
to get that second layer of verification.
So it's like having a double lock on your door.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the beauty of MFA
Yeah.
is that it's becoming increasingly available
Good.
across a wide range of online services.
So there's really no excuse not to use it.
Pretty much.
Okay, I'm convinced.
Go.
MFA, password manager.
Check.
What other low-hanging fruit, so to speak, should people focus on in their initial gap analysis?
Another easy win
Okay.
is making sure your software and operating systems are up to date.
Oh, right. Updates?
Those updates often include security patches
Okay.
that fix known vulnerabilities.
So it's not just about getting the latest features,
Yeah.
but about closing those security gaps
Exactly.
hackers could exploit.
And most devices and software programs
Yeah.
make it pretty easy to enable automatic updates.
Automatic updates are a lifesaver.
They really are.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, is
Yeah.
there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that cybersecurity is not a destination.
Okay.
It's a journey.
A journey, okay.
The threat landscape is constantly evolving.
Right.
And so are defenses.
So what matters most?
Developing a security mindset,
Okay.
staying informed, and being willing to adapt.
So true. It's like anything else we want to improve in our lives.
Exactly.
It takes consistent effort and a willingness to learn and grow.
And the good news is,
Yeah.
the more you learn about cybersecurity, the less intimidating it becomes.
I like that.
It's like anything else.
Right.
Once you understand the basics,
Yeah.
you can start to build on that knowledge
Okay.
and make more informed decisions.
Awesome. Well, to our listeners,
Yes.
we encourage you to take that first step.
Take the leap.
Do your own mini gap analysis,
You got it.
whether it's for your personal accounts,
Right?
your home network, or your business.
Exactly.
And remember, there are plenty of resources available
Absolutely.
to help you along the way.
Reach out if you need help.
Be sure to check the show notes for some helpful links.
Good idea.
Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.
Stay safe out there.